Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Bright and shiny at 8:30. I guess first logistic, there is coffee and water. We also have a very excellent coffee shop that has little snacks and coffee and lattes and espressos and double espressos if you need it later in the afternoon. As well as amount of logistics like that, there is a lot of lunch places. So at noon, it's kind of lunch on your own, but there is a lot of lunch places in this building, both a full restaurant next door, also snacks and also catered for a fee, little boxes of lunch you can get from Aldo's Cafe as well. And then right across from us, there is the Union South that has a lot of restaurants that you can walk in and get food. And then nearby, there's a Subway as well. And restrooms right across the way. And if you have any other questions, if you see people wearing name tags, we decided not to give everybody name tags because it was much easier just to have a smaller group of name tags and everybody can meet new friends by saying hello. But if you see a LOCI logo or any name tag, those are people in my group, and you can ask them where things are. So delighted to have everybody come. This is the 5th conference. For the previous 4 times it's been in Europe, and this is the first time it's been held in the US. And this conference really, as the name suggests, is for users and developers. This is really meant to be community building. This is your conference. And we have a series of talks and workshops really representing users and developers from around the world. And we're delighted also to have the founder of ImageJ, Wayne Rasband, here as well to kick things off. So this is really your event. So you see we have a programmed schedule, but we also encourage you to do your own schedule. So if you meet someone or want to talk to somebody, feel free to, there's a lot of meeting spots around here, tables and chairs and places to go talk. So nobody will be offended if you want to have your own little session with somebody that you met or a developer or a user you want to talk to more. Everything will be either held here or upstairs. And that's one of the first logistical things I wanted to get out of the way is that all the talks will be in this room and the posters will be outside this room, and you'll see the poster boards as you registered. And we also will have a wine and cheese and little appetizer party tonight that's also right outside this room. But one series of the workshops today will be upstairs. So if you hang a left out of here at the main desk, you will see a bank of elevators. And there is the Aldo's coffee shop. And right there, there's a set of elevators with a sign saying ImageJ Conference. You take that elevator right up to the 3rd floor, and that will be where the workshops today that are called Track 2 for this morning and afternoon are in there. And so to gauge attendance, could people raise their hands if they plan on attending Track 1, which would be the introduction to ImageJ and image processing? If you keep them up so that Ellen and Mark and the group can keep track. Okay, so you guys are going to stay in this room. That's pretty easy. And for Track 2 was scripting the Numeric platform. Who plans on going to that? Okay, so that should work out. So you guys will be upstairs. I can tell by eyeballing it. That will be up on the 3rd floor. So again, Track 1. So we kind of guessed right. Track 1 will be in this room, as is on the schedule, and hopefully everybody picked up a schedule. If you want a more detailed view of it, it's also online. And again, logistical information. There is free internet in this building. You can use any 2 of the logins. The one I use is the Town Center login. If you have any trouble, ask any of us. But it should be free and work well. But this schedule is also very accurate if you don't want to go online. And so keep in mind, Track 1 here for both morning, afternoon, and Track 2 upstairs on the 3rd floor. Take the elevator next to Aldo's. Are there any logistical questions before we move on? If there are, just ask any of us wearing name tags, and we're all happy to help. I do want to point out this is really community building. I will talk more about it, but we're very, very delighted to be able to put this meeting on due to the generous support of many, including our vendors I'll introduce, and also local strong partnership from my lab, LOCI, Mortgage, which is an institute in this building that I'm part of that is very passionate about multi-scale imaging and is helping fund this initiative. And then, of course, you, the community, the ImageJ parent community, and closely related communities, ImageJ and Fiji, that helped put this event on. And so this meeting is really about community building. Don't worry, I'm not going to give a full talk. I'm just going to say that the importance of having this meeting is really meant to complement the great meetings in Luxembourg. The Luxembourg partners are the ones that started this meeting, and many of us have attended this meeting. They are actually in a replanning mode. That's one of the reasons we're having it here this year. They are trying to complement our meeting and have one in Europe. They're looking for a European partner. So if you happen to be from Europe or would like to travel to Europe or like to organize something in Europe, this is your opportunity. They're looking for a new site in Europe and would love to help with that. So if you're interested, let me or Curtis or Mark or any of us know. This really is about hands-on and lectures and workshops. And we are really trying to be both beginner and advanced. So there will be different events scaled towards different levels of expertise, and we hope that there'll be something for everybody. And it really is to provide a community forum. And I think the real strength of ImageJ, as you'll see from Wayne's great work over the last 30 years, is that it's been community building. And that the great thing about ImageJ isn't just the code, it's the developers and the users that make ImageJ great and all the contributions in this community. And so there's going to be a series of short presentations and posters and lightning talks. And again, if you want to have your own side meetings, that's encouraged. I do want to introduce the people, not only so you know who our team and who is putting on this conference, but also so that you know who to ask for help or questions. So in particular, acknowledge the Curtis Rudin, who is the lead developer. Many of you know Curtis for his absolutely terrific support in the ImageJ list. I think he's on there daily along with Mark Heiner. And they are lead developers of ImageJ in my group and both at Fiji as well. Ellen Arena, who's a new addition, came from the Pasteur Institute, is working on ImageJ2 applications. And a real round of thanks to Christy Wendt, who is my research administrator, who has probably been in contact with every speaker at least 5 times and has organized everything, and we're in a debt of gratitude to her. And then several of our student developers that work on ops that you'll hear about from Curtis, and also keeping all the servers running. And then there are many other people in the group on peripheral projects related to many of the talks, such as Polscope, OpenSpin, Micromanager, NIME, collaborating. These are up here just to knowledge who they are, but also in case you need more help, they're all in the audience. Yuming Lu and Gunit working on college analysis, and I have a poster tonight. Ben Cox and Jane Squirrel and Leon Yang and Julie Last, they're all taking advantage of Micromanager to do light sheet microscopy, and there'll be a session on that. And then we're doing a lot of open source acquisition and starting to use Micromanager as well for our plans and laser scanning. So again, if you have any questions, or even if you just want to know where restaurants are, all these people can let you know. And I also want to thank the advisory committee. A long-standing tradition of the ImageJ committee, of the ImageJ planning committees, is that we have external advisors, several of whom are in this audience. But these people helped pick the talks and reviewed the submissions, and we're in debt to all of them. And again, thanks to our partners, both the folks in Luxembourg, Andreas Janin in particular, obviously everybody at LOCI and Mortgage and UW for making this happen, and of course the ImageJ, Fiji, and ImageJ2 communities. But a particular special thanks to our commercial vendors. I think it's a real testament to how companies really appreciate open source free software, that many companies have been involved in ImageJ and Micromanager in particular. And 4 of these companies have decided to actually speak with their kind support and have helped make this happen. So if you could make an effort to thank them and for coming here. And this is Photometrics, who's a leading company in cameras, and they really appreciate ImageJ both for its work in Micromanager, for controlling their hardware, but also in terms of image analysis. Olympus, who is here in force with 2 of their lead salespeople I'll talk about in a second, who is a great UW-Madison partner, but also an international partner in helping microscopists get their data, and very supportive of both ImageJ and sub-projects like Micromanager. FEI is also here. They're a mirror product, is very interested in having a mirror work more with open source. And so Christian, I'll introduce in a second, is very happy to help and talk. And then also they're very interested in, with Dean Krogman and their efforts in electron microscopy, would like to see ImageJ better support cryo-EM. So again, these 2 companies, both representatives here, and I encourage you to talk to them. And then ASI, you may know, is a very leading manufacturer of stages and motors, and they also have brochures here, and I encourage you to thank them if you get an opportunity to. So I did want to give special thanks to our 2 lead partners, though. They're both here, Olympus and FEI. So these are the 3 partners, particularly for those of you who are local. These are the folks that can help you, and both Jeff and Willie Hausner, who have been really fortunate, have been over 25 years of experience. They're both here at the meeting, happy to help you, and they're very supportive of open source software, image analysis, getting their hardware working, and also supporting their software and tools. And then Steve Riccio, who is not here, but they work closely with confocal microscopy. And Olympus obviously sells a wide range of equipment, which you can ask them if you have questions, but also supports a lot of third-party hardware. So particularly those of you on campus, I encourage you to talk to them if you have microscopy needs. Both Willie and Jeff can help you. And then our other partner, major partner of the conference, is FEI, with their product Amira as well. And so both Christian and Dean Krogman are here, and they can answer any questions you have about their product line and what they're doing for their workflow solutions. UW-Madison is a strong partner with FEI. We actually have been making a big push to bring back electron microscopy and force here, and so FEI has been the major supplier of a lot of the new cryo-EM scopes that we're buying and setting up. And in particular, we're excited by the potential of Amira, which is a product of FEI, that Amira, even though it is a commercial package, really recognizes the potential of linking to ImageJ. We've been having a lot of meetings about actually trying to use Python and other methods to actually have their tools communicate with Fiji, and Christian would be pleased to discuss that with you. So please thank all those sponsors, in particular Olympus and FEI. They're here. And if you get a chance to see any of our folks in our group, in particular Christy, Mark Heiner, and Curtis, please give them special thanks for all their help. And with that, I think I'm right on schedule. So in the last 3 or 4 minutes, are there any questions before I introduce our first speaker? Everybody know where to go and what's going on? And all right, so again, bathrooms next door, coffee next door, and if you need suggestions for lunch places, there's plenty of places nearby. So with that, I'm delighted to introduce the first speaker, who is Wayne Rasband. And if you ever get a chance, I recommend to read an article that we wrote with Wayne about the history of ImageJ. I think it's a real testament to what happens when you take a very smart guy and you leave him alone to do great things. And I think that ImageJ as an example was Wayne's brainchild. And he deserves great credit for not some fairly mandated project, but he had a passion of helping users. And this really resulted in this organic software package whose real testament isn't the code, but is all of you. So thousands of developers cumulatively on the listserv and around the world working on this package. And the real value of the project isn't the code, but it's the expertise that's behind it. And Wayne deserves a lot of thanks for that. And we're delighted. There's no better person to lead off the meeting. And so with that, I introduce Wayne Rasband.
Right. Well, I've been working on ImageJ now for 18 years. I worked on it while I was at the National Institutes of Health, but I retired about 5 years ago. But I'm still working on ImageJ. I travel a lot, but I work on it while I'm on the road. I guess you could say I've been working on it for 28 years if you count the predecessor called NIH Image, which only ran on the Macintosh. I started work on NIH Image in 1987, and I started working on ImageJ in 1997, about the time that the Java programming language became popular. And we got a little problem here. Showing up. I don't have a prepared talk. All I plan to do today is give a ImageJ demonstration. I've developed a bunch of scripts, about 27 different plugins and scripts that demonstrate some of the features of ImageJ, with an emphasis on the features that are new in the last couple of years. These scripts and plugins are available on the web, so you can download them and try them yourself. You should be able to duplicate everything that I'm about to show you. You can download them from wsr.imagej.net. Should have left it on, I guess. There's a zip archive there called 2015 conference. You just unzip that archive and move it. Oh, I think I forgot a significant. It's okay. I'm going to try a different adapter. All you need to do is unzip that archive and move it to the ImageJ plugins folder, and then restart ImageJ, and then you should have a new submenu in the plugins menu that will have 27 commands in it, and those are the 27 macros and scripts that I plan to demonstrate. Okay, thank you. Looks like we're working now, so I can get started. I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about how you download and install ImageJ. I should also mention that this I'm using the original ImageJ. It's also sometimes called bare ImageJ, and it's the program that Fiji is based upon. So most of the things I'm going to show today would also work with Fiji. Oops. Well, I just touched it and it went blank. You're going to need a little help. Oh, it's back again. Okay. When you download ImageJ, you get a folder called ImageJ. All of the ImageJ is available for Linux, Windows, and the Macintosh, and all of the distributions now are zip archives. And when you unzip the archive, you get an ImageJ folder. You download ImageJ from image.nih.gov/ij. That's the ImageJ website that's been around for at least 15 years. There's a couple of things you want to do after you download the ImageJ folder. You want to open it. First thing you want to do is copy the ImageJ folder to a convenient location. It doesn't have to go in the applications folder on the Mac or on the program files folder on Windows. You can put it anywhere that's convenient. Where I've copied it to the desktop. And the other thing that should note is that there's no more installers for Windows. That has one advantage in that you don't need an administrator privilege anymore to install ImageJ. Another thing I should point out is that for Macintosh users, there's no more ImageJ64 app. The standard ImageJ app now runs in 64-bit mode, and if you want a 32-bit version, you use the ImageJ32 app. That's only of interest for people who are running the plugins that require QuickTime for Java, or people with really old computers that can't run 64-bit applications. And the first thing you'd want to do is copy or drag the ImageJ app to the taskbar or the dock, so you can run it conveniently. And I've already done that. So I just double click on the ImageJ icon in the dock to run ImageJ. The next thing you'd want to do is update it to the latest version, and you do that using the help update ImageJ command. The latest version is 1.50B, and a couple of things I'm going to show this morning require the 1.50B version. Let's just take a quick look at the inside the ImageJ folder. It'll come with three folders inside the ImageJ folder. One with lookup tables, one with macros, and one with plugins. And the fourth folder there, samples, was created when I used the command in the file open samples menu that caches the sample images. So now I have copies of all of the 25 or so sample images locally, so I'm not dependent on that. Not dependent on downloading those from the internet. Let's look inside the plugins folder. Originally, it just contained plugins written in the Java programming language, but now it can be the plugins can be written in the ImageJ macro language or in scripting language like JavaScript. Two-thirds of the plugins now in the plugins folder distributed with ImageJ are macros or scripts. And for my demonstration this morning, I created a folder that has 27 or so macros or scripts, and that's called the 2015 conference. And all I did is copy that folder into the ImageJ folder, and then as soon as I restart it, ImageJ, all of those commands appear in the plugins menu under 2015 conference. And I put a number in front of each of the names so that they would be in the appropriate order. So basically, to install a plugin, you just drag it into the plugins folder, and you usually into a folder inside the plugins folder. And as soon as you do that as soon as you restart ImageJ, then that plugin will appear in the plugins menu. For example, I have a little macro here called Hello World, which I can open up. It's just one line that just displays Hello World in a dialog. And to install that, I just drag it into the plugins folder, and I'll put it in the scripts folder. Now I can to get that to appear in the plugins menu, I either have to restart ImageJ or I can use this command called refresh menus. So I'll do now if I go to the plugins menu and then scripts, I should have a new command, which I do, Hello World. So there's a myth that the plugins have to always have an underscore in the name, but that's not true. That's only true for plugins written in the Java programming language. For macros and scripts, you don't have to have an underscore in the name. So I'm going to start showing you some of these scripts, but it'd be more convenient if I had these as just a list in a window that I could just double click on. And there's a way to do that. ImageJ has this command called the command finder, and that command has a shortcut of L. In ImageJ, the keyboard shortcuts don't require you to hold down the command key or control key. You can just press the key. So if I just press L, then I should get the command finder. And that lists all of the ImageJ commands, hundreds of them. And you can just type in a keyword to search. For example, if I wanted to look for commands about commands, I can just type about, and then it shows me all of the commands that have about in their names. So there's 6 of them. Like there's about ImageJ, about startup macros, and so forth. And to run one of these commands, you just double click on it. So that's the about ImageJ command, which is in the it's at the bottom of the help menu. try about startup macros. In this case, I just want to see the scripts that I'm going to demonstrate this morning. So if I just type 2015, I get all the commands that are in the 2015 conference submenu. That works because the search searches the menu path as well as the command name. Another nice thing about the command finder is you can view the source code of a lot of the plugins. So in this case, if I just select the first macro, which is called sphere macro, I can just click on the source button and it shows me the source code for that macro. The first 4 macros and scripts I wrote to sort of benchmark the speed of the various scripting languages available with ImageJ. So there's 5 different versions of this macro, which generates a synthetic image. I'll run the first one. This is the macro version. It just displays this, generates a sphere. And it's doing it using pixel by pixel processing, which is something you don't normally want to do in a scripting language because they're interpreted and they're typically very slow. This macro displays the time it took to run as the title, so you can see it. This took 0.6 seconds. One of the interesting things here is that frequently if you run it a second time, it'll be faster, which is the case here. It ran in 0.4 seconds the second time. And I also have a JavaScript version, and it's a lot slower. So you can see a progress bar there. That took 4.9 seconds the first time. It's much faster the second time. It's 1.7 seconds the second time. And here's the bean shell version, which is also pretty slow. And this is the Python version. Python is really slow starting up for the first time, and then after that it's pretty quick. So those are all the scripting languages supported by the bare ImageJ. I also have a plug-in version, and it's by far the fastest. It runs in 12 milliseconds. If you look at the source code for the first macro, then I have some relative times here. So if the macro version runs 25 times slower than the Java version, the JavaScript version runs 120 times slower. The Python version runs 68 times slower, and the Bean Shell version runs 245 times slower. One of the interesting things I found out was that the JavaScript engine that you download from the Mozilla organization runs twice as fast as the JavaScript that's built into Java 6, which is what I'm using. ImageJ, when it's using Java 8, uses the Rhino engine from Mozilla, so it runs twice as fast. And I'm about to demonstrate one of the new features in image J, and that's there's now a shortcut for the close all command, which is in the file, which is file close all. You can now close all windows just by pressing Shift W. The second thing that I want to demonstrate that is a rather major new feature, and that's there's significant enhancements to the plotting functions in image J. So the date from May of this year. Yeah. Michael Schmidt, who lives in Austria, enhanced plotting functions, so it does a lot more than it used to. He created this little slideshow that demonstrates some of the new features. A big one is that plot windows can now be resized. You can zoom in and zoom out using the plus and minus keys. You can zoom in and out horizontally by moving the cursor below the x-axis and pressing plus and minus, or you can zoom in and out vertically by moving the cursor to the left of the y-axis and pressing plus and minus. You can create a selection and then press the plus key, and it will zoom into that selection. You can always revert to the original plot by pressing 4, which is the shortcut for the image zoom original scale command. You can use the hand tool to pan through the plot. There's a new, in the plot window, there's a new More menu that has a lot of commands you can use for customizing the window. You can now add a legend to plots. The legend is automatically positioned to try and avoid the plot, or you can fix the position of the legend. And the last new feature here is there's now an option in the More menu to create a high resolution plot for printing. So I have several example plots here. I can show you this. Here's the first one. So it's resizable. I can use the plus and minus keys to zoom in and zoom out. If I press 4, which is the image zoom original scale command, I can go back to the original display. See if I move the cursor to below the x-axis, then I can zoom in and out horizontally, or if I move it to the left of the y-axis, I can zoom in and out vertically. And if I make a selection and then press plus, then it will zoom into the selection. And if I use the hand tool, there's a shortcut for the hand tool, and that's just to hold down the space bar. Then I can pan. Another relatively new capability of the graphic functions is the ability to do arrow plots. This plot also has a legend. You can do log and semi-log plots. You now have the ability to have both horizontal and vertical error bars. Okay. We're moving on to the next topic. This is an interesting little macro that was contributed by Jerome Buterer. See if it's going to run. Yep. What it does is it downloads a Python program that defines a new color table called Veridus, which was presented at the SciPy meeting this year. This log window is displaying the Python program that was downloaded. The macro extracts the values that define the color table and creates an image J lookup table from the values. Then it opens the cell colony sample image, applies the Veridus color table to that image, and then generates a color scale. One of the relatively new features here is that the color bars or calibration bars now can be drawn in an overlay, so they're non-destructive to the image. And there's a new keyboard shortcut for the overlay options command. So that allows you to hide the overlay. So I just remove the overlay, and then if I uncheck hide, I can bring it back. The next script is a display LUTs. That's a shortcut for the image color display LUTs command, which is relatively new, and it displays all of the lookup tables that are available and installed in ImageJ. And the new Veridus lookup table is the last one. It's going to be included with the next ImageJ release. One advantage of the Veridus color table is that it's monotonic in intensity. You can see that if you create a rectangular selection and use the plot profile command, which has a K shortcut. If you do that same thing with some of these other lookup tables, say jet, you see that it's definitely not monotonic. Or another one that's popular is the fire lookup table. It's not monotonic either. Another advantage of the Veridus lookup table is it's usable by viewers who are colorblind. If you look at the source code for the grab Veridus color table macro, there's a link to a YouTube video of the presentation at the SciPy meeting, so you can learn more about that color table. this next macro is another alias. It's to a new command in the edit options menu called startup. And this allows you to put in macro code that's executed when ImageJ starts up. And it's got a menu that with some examples. So one would be if you want the default to be black background for the commands that work with binary images, you just select black background, and it enters in the appropriate macro code to make sure that the background is set to black when ImageJ starts up. This command replaces the old auto run macro that in the startup macros, which was kind of a kludgy way to do the same sort of thing. The macro number 14 is also an alias to a command, and I just put it here to remind me to show you this command. And that's the reset command that is in the edit options. The reset command erases the preferences file. You would want to run this if your image J is behaving strangely, and especially if it's behaving strangely and other image J on other computers in the lab are working fine. It's very likely it's a problem with one of the preferences that's stored in the preferences file, and you can now just delete the preferences file by using this reset command. You don't need to know where the preferences file is, because it's just as well, because sometimes it's hard to find. The next macro demonstrates how you can display non-numeric columns in the results table. For many years, 15 or 16 years, ImageJ could only display numeric data in the results table. But now it has the ability you can now have non-numeric columns in the results table. This particular macro displays information about all open images. And to make sure that there are some images open, it opens 4 images. And in the first column, it displays the image title. In the second, it displays the information that's shown above the image, such as the dimensions and the amount of memory required by that image. And the third column displays the directory that the image was loaded from. The next macro shows you some of the new things you can do with dialog boxes. ImageJ has a built-in class called the generic dialog, which makes it relatively easy to display for plugins and scripts to display dialog boxes. And now you have the ability to include images in your dialog boxes, and you can have help buttons that display HTML formatted text. This is another relatively new feature. Dialog boxes can now have radio buttons. In earlier versions of ImageJ, you could only have check boxes, and the radio buttons can be displayed in grids, or horizontal, vertical, so it gives you some flexibility. This is a cute little demonstration of a new feature that was added by Norbert Fischer. In earlier versions of ImageJ, there was no way to get to access the anchor points of spline-fitted selections or line selections and polygon selections, but now you can just move the anchor points around. I'll run that one more time. Looks like I closed the command finder window, so I'll have to bring it back. The dual progress bar is also a contribution of Norbert Fischer. That's in earlier versions of ImageJ. There was only one progress bar, and sometimes they would conflict. So if you wrote a macro that was running commands that created progress bars, and you wanted to use a progress bar in your macro, then they would conflict and not work very well. But now you can have now you can have two levels of progress bar. So an overall progress bar and then a lower level progress bar. The point selection script demonstrates that point selections now can be of different styles and different sizes. You can open up a dialog box by just double clicking on the point selection tool, and you can. Pardon? Okay. There are 5 different sizes, and there are 4 different types for point selections. And the next macro shows you how to use the channel arranger class from a script. The channel arranger is also a contribution of Norbert Fischer, and it allows you to rearrange the channels in an image. So this is the Eliceiri sample image, which has 4 channels. I can swap the first 2 channels and delete the 3rd channel just by typing in 2.1. This command has a nice feature that some commands don't have yet, and that's the help button. And just by looking at this help button, I found out that you can also change the lookup table by just double clicking. So I can switch from the red to magenta in the first channel, which I'm swapping with the 2nd channel. It's warning me that one of the channels is going to be deleted. So here's the Eliceiri now with just 2 channels, and the red channel has been converted to magenta. And this is the macro that demonstrates how to use the channel arranger. it's using the new hyperstack command, which has a keyboard shortcut of Alt N. It's generating this hyperstack by using the new hyperstack command. This is a little confusing. The new hyperstack command has the option to label every image in the hyperstacks. This is very useful for testing purposes. And it's labeled, each stack is labeled with its channel, slice, frame, and image index. And it's labeled in two different ways, either by drawing the labels on the image, rendering it as pixel data, and also as an overlay. And then the four boxes there have the stack positions represented by pixel values. See if I step through the channels, you can see that the channel position is changing. And if I click OK to continue, then it'll swap the channels. And now the channels have been reversed. And you can see now that the first channel is the former channel 16, and the second channel is the former channel 15. And the next example shows you how a JavaScript can create a dynamically updated image, an image that's dynamically updated using a slider. It does this by implementing the dialog listener interface. This is doing a gamma transform of the image in real time. All right. It's working out well. I'm just about finished here. This script demonstrates how you can create selections that have sub-pixel resolution and how you can reposition them at sub-pixel locations. This is just a 16 by 16 pixel view into the blobs sample image. And the last one is the last script demonstrates how you can now draw text on an image in a overlay at arbitrary angles. So that's about it. Do you have any questions?